So welcome today. For those of you that it's your first time being here today, I am Ingrid Sullivan. I'm one of the presenters for the Smart Senior Series. And this is something that we've been doing now. This is our fourth year. Yep. Fourth year, fifth one that we've done with lots of different topics. And several of you have been coming, and thank you so much for coming. We always try to do something a little bit different each time to make it valuable for you to take information away that maybe you hadn't thought about or looked into for quite a while. So we're hoping that that'll be beneficial. Today's seminar, welcome. Today's seminar is called Be Smart About Building Your Support Team. And when we're thinking about that, or where this topic came from, is that as we grow older and life changes, whether we're 2 and now we're 1, or we were extremely healthy and now we're not as much, there's times where we really need to take a moment and think about who's there to support me in the event that something should change. So what we've done today is we've got some expert panelists, like we always have for you, and they're going to be presenting different topics for us today. Everyone should have a handout that's got your drawing ticket on it, right? That's one of the important things. Remember, you have to stay to win. In addition to that, we have information about our sponsors, which we'll talk about here in just a couple of moments. But I wanted to make you aware of the fact that we've got 2 handouts today. And one in particular, the one that's got the we or me in the middle, is one that we're going to be working on throughout the seminar today together. So you want to have that available. You want to have your pen or your pencil available because we're going to give you an opportunity to fill in who that person might be in that section for you. And then we have another one in there that's about medical information, and we'll be talking more about that later. That's inside of your handout. All righty. So we're going to go ahead and get going. First of all, most of you know us, but there are several new people here today. Like I mentioned, I'm Ingrid Sullivan. My partner in life and my partner in business, John Sullivan, he's sitting at the sign-in table right now, just in case we have some stragglers. But John and I are real estate agents, and we actually learned about a lot of the things that we've been sharing with you over the last 11 years as we've been serving older adults. We work with first-time home buyers, move-up sellers, but the biggest part of our business is working with older adults, and we really, really have enjoyed that. And the Smart Senior Series comes from the experience doing that. But in addition to that, as real estate agents, we're Sullivan and Sullivan Real Estate, which is we're Keller Williams agents. We built Senior Downsizing Experts, which is a company that helps provide services for our clients that are needed when we're trying to do things like maybe take a move or do a right size. Our company's Senior Downsizing Experts is comprised of repair contractors. We have vetted professionals that have worked with us for, in many cases, 10 years. We have estate liquidators that work with us. We have packers and movers. If you're thinking about making a move, whether it's locally or maybe making a move to another state, we have movers that work closely with us. We have legal and financial experts that work with us as well. And together, we all work to provide our clients with the needs that they have at that time so that it can be a less stressful event for them. As we ask all the time, I'd like to ask everybody to be sure and hold your questions until later. In your handout that you have, especially for those of you that are new, there's a section in there for notes. I want you to know that we always allow time for questions. So jot those questions down. We're going to have some hot topics today that might be really important to you that you want to ask later. Jot those questions down, and then we'll make sure that whoever the questions are for, that we address those when we get to that Q&A time. Most importantly for us, we want to thank our sponsors. We couldn't make this possible if we didn't have the sponsors that we do. And those of you that are here today that are sponsors, if you wouldn't mind just standing so that we'll have an opportunity to share information with our attendees. You know, oftentimes our sponsors are able to come to every event, sometimes not every event, but we want you to know that you have access to them at an event, so that if you have questions that maybe don't pertain to today's topic, but they might in the future, they're here for you to answer those questions. We want to thank Count It All Joy Estate Sales for being a sponsor of ours. We want to thank the, oh my goodness.
Okay, the orchards that
The
are on
orchards.
the islands.
The orchards, and we have 2 orchards here. We have Orchards Marketplace and we have orchards in the Highland. And they are an active 55 senior living apartments. So we have them here as well. And tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, so we are a 55 and up active community, so we have activities all the time, the pool, track, just everything going on, and we are a huge family. I actually moved in recently, and so it's like I have like 30 grandmas and grandpas. Everybody's just so supportive and awesome. So.
Great, thank you. And Erica.
I'm with Count It All Joy Estate Sales. Some of your faces are very familiar, but we liquidate the contents of a home when you're moving into the beautiful communities like the Richmond.
And we've known each other for 11 years. Yes. Yes. And then we have Matt Davidson here, and Matt is with Davidson Law Group.
Hi, I'm Matt Davidson. We've been a part of Smart Senior Series from the very beginning, I
Yes.
think. And been a sponsor pretty much every time. But my brother and I, we founded the Davidson Law Group, and we are a comprehensive estate planning, elder law, and probate law firm. That's all we do. That's all we focus on, and obviously that lines up exactly with what Smart Senior Series is doing as far as the time in people's lives when those things are most needed. And you get to hear a lot more from us today.
And their firm, since we started out together, not in the beginning of business, but since Smart Senior, their firm has really grown. And you have someone here from your firm as well.
We do. So Megan Proctor, maybe you can stand up. She's another attorney at our firm. She does the same exact thing as us. Basically, we just had to duplicate ourselves because we're spread out all across North Texas and we have really grown. So thanks for mentioning that, Megan. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you again. We have Haber Wealth Management. We have Troy Miller here. Troy.
Hello, we appreciate you allow us to be a sponsor. I know Tricia as well as myself, mainly Tricia, she's the founder of Haber Wealth Management, has enjoyed what you've been doing. She respects what you've been doing the last few years, and we became a sponsor last year, and it's our second year sponsor. And we're excited to be here and excited to be talking today and hopefully helping some of you guys out.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. In addition to that, we have Cherry Creek Mortgage is another company that works with us. At one point in time during COVID, especially, there were a lot of people that were looking at possibly refinancing their homes, but they also do new business as well. So if you have any questions about your mortgage or you're wanting to know about your rates, they're also a great resource for us. Old Republic Title is one of the title companies that we work with. It's our #1 title company because they've worked so well with our clientele over the last few years. So they're another sponsor. Celebration Magazine. How many of you are familiar with Celebration? So this year we have actually decided that we were going to split our seminars. We were going to do 1 month in Tarrant County. We're here today. And next month we'll be doing this very same seminar in Richardson at Celebration's location called The Spot. So if you have friends that you feel might benefit from what we're talking about today, but they live in Dallas, let them know that we're going to be over there next month as well on Cinco de Mayo. In addition to that, we have Live Oak Auctions, another company that helps with estate liquidation. The majority of their business is online. They've been a great partner for us. And then we have the Viridian Elements. The Viridian is where we are. Elements is the section of the Viridian that's an actually 62 and older housing development on the back side of the Viridian. So we have a variety of living styles out here. Basically, the concept is multi-generational living. So you could have your family, your son and daughter, or daughter and son-in-law living on the front side of the Viridian, and in the Elements on the back side would be where you may have your home. Of course, you could live anywhere you want, but they've set it up that way so that it's nice. When there's grandkids, for example, they can ride their bikes to grandma and grandpa's versus having to hop in the car and go get them somewhere. It's a great master plan community. And as you can see, when you came in today, they're doing a lot more construction. There's more that they're going to be adding in the future. I think that pretty much sums it up for our sponsors. And of course, it would be Sullivan and Sullivan, senior downsizing experts as well. Now, you have heard briefly from two of our experts today. You've heard from Matt as well. And we also want to make sure that our other experts have an opportunity to introduce themselves. So we have Troy is going to be talking to us about wealth management today. Matt is going to be talking about the legal part of that. That's important for us to make sure that we're updated. And then we have Deidra Kindred. Deidra, if you want to give your introduction.
Sure.
Ooh, it works.
Hi, everyone. My name is Deidra Kindred. I am a nurse of 25 years. My background is cardiovascular intensive care, CCU, ICU, MICU, SICU, legal nurse consulting, and IVIG home infusion. And now I take the pleasure of being an independent patient advocate. We are not a home health company. What we do is we help you guide you through the complex healthcare system, meaning that I can go to your doctor's visits and sit in those doctor's visits and talk medications, disease processes, make sure your cardiologist, your pulmonologist, and your renal doctor and your PCP are interacting with each other.
Great. All right. We'll hear more about that later. And then we have Jeremy Gengler.
Yes, oh gosh, sorry. Hold okay. We're good. All right. My name is Jeremy Gengler, and I am chaplain with you guys are. Your way. And I'm a chaplain with Concho Hearts Hospice. Hospice is not something we always want to think about, but I'm here to tell you today about a few things related to hospice that I think will take a lot of the fear out. But what I do is, my background is I was in church work for 15 years. I've served as a pastor, a minister of education, a youth pastor. I've served as a missions coordinator. I've served in a variety of different places. But I've been a chaplain now in the hospice work for 2 years. I did not start off in the Army to be a military chaplain. I went straight into hospice work, and I am certified, almost board certified as someone who's specifically trained in hospice chaplaincy. And so I'm glad to be here with you today. Hospice is something I never ever thought I would do, but now I can't imagine doing anything else. And so, thank you.
All right, we'll talk more about that. Let me just think that I want back to the and see if we need to turn it down. We'll come back and retrieve that from you in a minute. All right, great. Okay, so let's get going. So the very first piece that we're talking about, this is that insert that I talked about earlier. We've got several different sections that we're going to talk about today. We have the financial, legal, health and medical, social, family, home, education, spiritual. We'll have something on each one of those sections, and we're encouraging you to listen to what sounds like something that you need to add if there's a person that's missing, but to also write in those blanks who you have that's fulfilling that position for you. This will be really great because when the need comes, you'll be able to take a look at this and right away know who those people are to contact, or a family member as well. So who should be on your financial team? We're going to start by talking about that, and Troy is going to work with me through that process. Troy, let me ask you a few questions to get started. So one of the most important places to start as we all plan for this time in our lives is, and especially if we have enough, and for some of us, we may not have enough, what is a wealth manager?
Well, great question, Ingrid. If you can't, let me know if you can't hear, and I'll definitely put the mic on.
Yeah, if you can't hear, put your hand up and he'll put that mic right up to the
Just, let me keep away from some of the interference. I'm not sure what that was on the other microphone. But to answer the question, what is a wealth manager? That's a good question. A lot of times people do think a wealth manager is a banker. They have a private bank that they work with, or some kind of local bank. So, I would say a wealth manager is not a banker, not a bank financial advisor, at a bank. I would say it's investment banker. I would say those probably aren't wealth managers. They might manage investments, but I'm not necessarily sure, they're really looking at your holistic financial situation. What I would say is a wealth manager is really a fiduciary advisor that sits down with you and goes through a plan. It doesn't just look at your IRA and say, hey, I got this great stock tip, or I got this. They actually really take a look at your goals, what you're looking to do, how you're looking to pass wealth, maybe down to your kiddos or charities or whoever you may leave that to. One big thing when you're looking for a wealth manager, I would say, is see if they're a fiduciary, not just an insurance, sales agent or something like that. You really get somebody that wants to put your best interest at heart, versus make a sell. Does that kind of help at all?
That does. So why is it important to have a wealth manager as part of your team so that you can help to facilitate possibly some of the other avenues or individuals that need to be a part of that? Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, Ingrid, I would tell you a lot of times I feel like a counselor. So,
I think we all do.
we work, our main office is over in Park Plaza, just east of here in Fort Worth, close to downtown, but definitely not the parking downtown. We got great parking. But it's, a lot, and there are a lot, the reason why I bring that up, there's a lot of counselors in that building. There's a lot of family counselors, Christian counselors, lots of good people. But a lot of times when we're sitting down with folks and we really get to know them, their family, and what their interests are, what they're looking to do, you get into the intricacies of the family and relationships. And so that's what I mean by counseling. Like a lot of times you feel like you're talking about that type of stuff, helping parents. I call it the sandwich generation, where maybe you're still helping your parents, but yet your kids are like, hey, Dad, I need $5,000. I'm really behind on my credit card bill, Dad. Can you really help me out? Just all of that type of stuff where you can really, a part of your life where you can get pulled from both ends. And so
would they be coming back to you and you'd help them make that decision as to whether or not they get the money for the car?
Well, a lot. So that's what we try to be. We say, hey, look, we're like use this as your quarterback, right? And we do. We have clients that are sitting there and negotiating a car deal. They'll call us and say, hey, look, you think I should lease this car or not? We love that stuff. We like to be involved in your life. A lot of times we have clients that do get there at some point. But it's very hard, right? It's hard telling somebody you love and know sometimes. So it's, but to answer the question, I think it's vital to have one of those on your team, help give you peace of mind, right? Help take the worry off your plate. Like right now, in the last few months, the market's been down the last 3 months. And before that, anybody looked like a investment superstar, right? It was going great. So the last 3 months have been tough, and then also with the Russia-Ukraine crisis. And so we can take a lot of that worry off of your plate. As you guys know, I'm sure you know, a lot of worry, a lot of stress on you hurts you health-wise. And so I'm trying to keep my health up, but but we take a lot of that off your shoulders, and if you help with the peace of mind, if you can retire, or what your lifestyle is going to look when you retire.
Well, that's good. So I have a few more questions here for you. So why is it important to have your spouse or your children on your financial team? I know that in a lot of cases I've heard that the wife may be the bill payer, and the husband may be the one that has the bigger picture of different investments and a bigger money picture. But tell us a little bit why you would want to have a family member on your team along with the wealth manager.
Right. And early in my career, a lot of times I'd meet with the husband, or maybe I'd got introduced to the wife, and we'd have a conversation, and it definitely lead to problems, issues. So we at Haber, we're really focused on meeting with both spouses when we sit down and talk with them, because you hate to build a plan and do all these things and somebody else have other ideas. And so it's definitely important to have a spouse or have a loved one on your team, and to be on the same page. Really what it comes down to is being on the same page. We use a system called the Money software system that does a great job to help take inventory of assets, of plans, of real estate assets, etc. So it really helps put together in some ways like an estate plan. It's not an estate plan, it helps inventory all those items. But the reason why I bring that up is really because when we work with a spouse who doesn't, they take care of all the social things in the house, and the other spouse does all the financial things, pays the bills. And so if that person passes away, the other person's kind of a wild loss, right? And so that e-money software has been, I guess you could say, priceless. It's really not, it's hard to put a value on it. But it's really helped out the other spouse when things like that have happened in emergencies. But to wrap up the question, put a bow on it, I would just simply say, the house divided is going to fail, right? So a lot of times when we're going to meet with you and we want to go in that certain direction and get that boat going in the right direction, then we, you need to have somebody on your team.
Well, I think that having somebody on your team, like your spouse, if that's the person that's available, or also having one of your children, or if that's not possible for you, even having a trustee work with you. Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, that's a great point. And we do see that, right? When sometimes maybe the kids don't get along, or they're just not sure who they want to make trustee or executor. A lot of times we see them kind of outsource that role to a bank, large, you can think of the big names out there. And so definitely see that, maybe a guardian. But yes, bank trustees, sometimes a way you can basically outsource that duty. But as far as having a family member, you have somebody that's going to look for you and be a fiduciary and see what's going on with your overall situation.
Okay, great. So our first block that we have in here is our financial team. So as you're looking at the handout that we gave you, look to see from this list, spouse, children, wealth advisor, CPA, tax preparer, insurance agent, any of those, life, auto, home, bank trustee, where do those people fit in your box right now? Who are those people that you're aware of that are helping you with those things? As well as make a little note to yourself or put a question mark by it. Who do you need to fill that particular slot? I was thinking when we were talking about someone to help pay the bills, it seems like years ago when we did something over at in Fort Worth, you had somebody that had come to one of the seminars that helped people pay their bills.
Yes. She's a friend of mine, Sandy Martin, and the company is called Aging Better. And she's actually, we contract her now to help us with our Medicaid applications. So when we're assisting clients get qualified for Medicaid, she actually does that.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, that's that business model.
I remember that.
She's created. Yeah, that's a good memory because I focused with her so much on Medicaid, I forgot.
Yeah,
That part.
And that's really helpful. Oftentimes the children are maybe not the best people to pay the bills. Maybe they're not paying their bills on time now. And I just say that randomly. And you want to make sure that everything's kept up because you've done a really great job all these years. And it might be easier for them and for you to defer that off to somebody that does that and can make sure that everything happens like it's supposed to as you age. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on from there. So now we're going to talk about who should be on your legal team. And we are going to move on now to Matt with Davidson Law. And Matt, just like with Troy, I have a few questions for you, and I would encourage you, if there's something there that we need to expound on, you and I have done this several times together, please make sure that we don't miss anything. So
Absolutely.
some questions that I have for you today to get us started. Okay, so we just mentioned it's important to plan ahead for so many reasons. And having an estate plan can avoid a lot of family conflicts. Let's move on to the legal section, which is where we are right now. And Matt and his firm created an estate plan for John and I so that we could make sure that we had everything lined out in the event that something would happen to us. So tell us briefly what an estate plan or estate planning is and why it's important.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Can everybody hear me well? I know I can boom. Hey, I recognize a lot of people here today. But no, so estate is kind of a strange word because even represented in this room, we have real estate, we have estate sale, and then we have an estate planning attorney. And for me, I particularly work in the elder law aspect of estate planning. But really what it is, when it comes to estate planning, a lot of people kind of hear this voice in their head, like estate, you know, like lifestyles of the rich and famous voice, you know, but that's really kind of a misunderstanding of what estate planning is. Because the thing is that the question is not whether you need an estate plan or an estate planning attorney, because everybody does. The question is who's going to create it, right? Because you're either going to create it the way that you want it by working with a professional who can guide you, or the state of Texas is going to come up with one for you. And they have one already in place, and it usually doesn't fulfill most people's wishes. So estate planning is really just being intentional about setting up structures and rules for not just assets, right? People think the lifestyles of the rich and famous. No, it's more than just money. It's medical issues. It's what's going to happen to my body whenever I pass, cremation versus burial. What kind of service or not service? I had one the other day who's going to do a Jimmy Buffett service, right? So what kind of stuff do you want in a celebration of life, or what religion, what songs, what flowers? You know, how do you want to empower your trusted people when they have to make difficult medical decisions for you? What about just personal items that may not have a ton of value, but they're very nostalgic items in your family, making sure those go to the right place. So it's not estate. It's really for everybody, and estate planning is just being intentional about those areas of life.
Well, I think it's one of the things that I really have comfort in is, for me, having an estate makes it easier for us when we pass that on to our son. We have one son, so we want to make sure that he knows that we've got everything covered. Oftentimes in our real estate business, we're looking at one or the other of the spouse has passed. We have something like that right now we're working on. And what's going to happen to the estate now, and how can the attorney be involved, or does the attorney know, or do the other family members know that the attorney has an important part in it? In most cases they do, but I think it's a comfort level for all of the individuals, not only from the business side, but from the family side, to know that if something happens to mom or dad, we have someone that has our best interests at heart, and that's going to be the attorney. So you always want to make sure and have a relationship with them as well, not just the guy they go see on that day, right?
Yeah, I agree. And not only are we battling kind of legal consumerism and one-off transaction attorneys, we're also battling legal Zoom. And I can't tell you how many legal Zoom wills I've had to fix after someone's died. So yeah, the relationship is very, very important. That it not be a one-off transaction, that it not be something you pulled off of online, but really having someone there, like you said, to hold the family's hand, who understands the family dynamic, and to keep that ongoing relationship.
And you work closely as well with the wealth manager.
Absolutely. That's usually kind of the trifecta. Wealth manager, CPA, estate planning attorney. Those are usually the three components whenever we're having to work through an estate plan, either pre or post passing.
So we've discussed this topic in previous seminars, but I just want to review those. Discuss briefly the difference in power of attorneys.
Yeah, so the basic ones that we handle are durable power of attorney and medical power of attorney. And medical power of attorney is pretty self-explanatory, right? It's someone to make medical decisions for you if you're unable to. And I briefly mentioned it before that you should always, along with your medical power of attorney, have what's called an advanced medical directive, so that you can instruct your trusted people, your medical power of attorney, exactly what you want in some of those most difficult end-of-life decisions. And you don't leave a wake of people who don't know whether they're making the right decision. Maybe they live with guilt, maybe they live with regret. So you always couple it there. Plus, your medical power of attorney should always have a HIPAA release attached right to it. When HIPAA passed, we had all these medical powers of attorney out there who couldn't talk to doctors. how are you supposed to make a medical decision for someone if you can't talk to a doctor? So it's very important that they be on the HIPAA. And then the durable power of attorney, which some people call it a financial power of attorney, but it's really more than that. The way that I always articulate it is everything that's not medical.
Oh,
is
real
on-
estate.
Yeah.
That's very important.
It's very important in real estate. And within the durable power of attorney, you can either make it springing, which it only goes into effect upon a doctor's letter that says one is incapacitated and can no longer make decisions for themselves, or it goes into effect immediately. And sometimes that can be extremely important to have it go into effect immediately. The example I always give is when they first shut everything down with COVID, we had a lot of people who had family members who were stuck overseas and could not get back here. And so it would have been very important in those situations for the people who were stateside to have an actual operating power of attorney, durable power of attorney, so that the person who's stuck out of the country can handle things for them. So you have the durable and the medical, and then within the durable, it can either be immediate or it can be a springing power of attorney.
So I have a question I want to throw out to you that I kind of we talked about earlier. We currently have a client right now where the daughter, both parents are living. One of them has stage 4 Alzheimer's, and the other one was just diagnosed with Parkinson's. The daughter has power of attorney for both parents, but because they're both living, she has trouble accessing the bank account. She can't do anything without one or the other. How does that work?
Well, if the power of attorney is set up to be immediate, then that's one of those where I'm going to be calling bankers and giving them a piece of my mind. Because if it's set up to be immediate, then they should be allowing them to use it. Now, some of the big box banks, Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, sometimes they're more difficult to deal with when it comes to powers of attorney. And sometimes they'll even make you fill out a mirrored power of attorney that's their form. And that just, I mean, it's annoying to me. But at the end of the day, if it's an immediate power of attorney, then in some form or fashion, whether it be jumping through their hoops or whether it be them just accepting it immediately, she should be able to access those accounts. But if it was springing,
But the power of attorney also was only a viable document if they're living.
that's correct.
Which I think a lot of people confuse.
That's correct. A lot of people misunderstand that. They think that it continues on after death, but after death, that's when the other positions kick in, the executor, the trustee, and then the agent for disposition of remains, which is the cremation and burial.
That's very important. Talk to us about a guardian. I've heard good stories and not so good stories about guardians. What do you have to add there?
Yeah, so we try to set up our clients to hopefully where they'll never need a court-appointed guardian. And if you have a comprehensive enough power of attorney, and maybe you have a revocable living trust, with those two documents in place, most of my clients will never need a court-appointed guardian. The one time I've had it with one of my clients in 12 years of practice was a situation where the client had very advanced Alzheimer's. His wife was taking care of him at home. It got to the point where he started wandering every night. Anyone who's ever dealt with dementia of any sort knows about the wandering aspect. And he began to be a danger to himself and others. And so the wife said, I can't do it anymore. You have to go into a memory care where they're going to keep you locked in so you can't wander.
For your safety.
For your safety. By this point, he was very advanced and he really didn't know much of what was going on. But there was one thing he did know. He did not want to go to memory. And so the problem is that power of attorney allows you to act in someone's place, but you can't overtake their wishes. You can't force them to do anything by power of attorney. So that's the one time that I've seen it where they had to go get a judge to declare him unable to make his own decisions, so that then wife could make him go into memory care for his own safety. So that's where the guardianship comes into play, but people who work with me rarely ever have to end up in that situation.
And that's people who work with you.
Correct.
But people who work with attorneys in general,
It
you can't
depends.
really say.
Yeah, it depends on how comprehensive the plan is.
So I think that going on from there, when choosing people to fill these roles for us, what are the important things to consider?
Yeah, so a lot of people ask me this, and there's a common misunderstanding that it needs to be someone who, on the medical side, it has to be your one family member who's a nurse. On the durable side, it has to be the one family member who's a CPA. But that's a little bit of a misunderstanding. The most important characteristic for most of these positions is just honesty, trustworthiness. Because the thing is that those people, even if they're not financially savvy or they're not medically savvy, they can go to professionals for assistance. They can go to a Troy, they can go to an attorney and get help when they're making financial and legal decisions for mom and dad. But as long as they're trustworthy, then you can trust that they'll get the right help. So really, those are the most important aspects, and just really making sure that it's somebody in your family who's really going to honor your wishes, and make sure it's not someone who's going to think, I know best for mom or dad or aunt or uncle, but someone who's really going to honor the wishes. But that also speaks to a very comprehensive plan, because people who work with me, most everything is going to be in writing.
So, while it's great to be able to have the opportunity to have someone like you or your firm work for someone like us on our behalf, there are people out there that don't feel that they can really do that. So if it's an income situation and they're not able to hire an attorney, what are the resources that you might refer them to get that done?
Well, the first thing I would say in that aspect is that we really feel like our law firm is also a ministry, right? It's a way for us to help the community. And there are a lot of things that you're not going to be able to find out in the community or even in the online. Things like ladybird deeds, right? People don't understand ladybird deeds. They don't understand Medicaid. They don't understand blended families and estate planning. They don't understand what's going to happen if I pass away and my surviving spouse remarries. They don't understand how to handle minor children or grandchildren who you might want to get something from. They don't understand how to handle special needs children or grandchildren. They don't understand how to handle kids who are bad with money. They don't follow all of the legal changes, either in the United States Congress or the Texas legislature. So my first caveat would be that we really try to make it where everyone can work with us, whether it be breaking up attorney's fees over a long period of time with payment plans, whether it be lowering our prices to where we can work with those people. So that would be my first thing to say. But honestly, these types of events are fantastic for it. The Senior Synergy, or the What's Up One in Arlington. Aging Well Expo. A lot of these types of events are fantastic community resources. I could not in good conscience say look online because there is so much misinformation and bad information out there. So really what I would be looking for would be people in the community like me and like others who really care about people and want to make sure that they have a plan, regardless of how much money they have or what kind of income they're receiving. And so what I would always say is, if this is something that concerns you, don't let money be what keeps you from talking to me or anyone else about it. Because there are a lot of people in the community who won't let money become the reason why you don't have it.
Thank you very much. Okay, so again, we want to fill in our boxes there based on what Matt had shared with us. Who do we have currently that fits into our legal needs, and what are we lacking? And we will move forward to who should be on your healthcare team. And we're going to now talk to Deidra, and we're going to talk to Jeremy in the areas that they specialize in. And of course, there'll be some crossover that they'll share with us. But let's go ahead and start with you, Deidra. So probably one of the most important teams to have in place is the medical team, which we all agree. I think one of the things that we hear most often when we're talking to individuals that are thinking about making a change in their life, maybe moving, whether it be moving to be near their children or moving to a more manageable home, one of the first things that comes up is, I love my doctor. He knows everything about me. I can't even imagine moving and finding a different doctor and starting all over. And for those of us that have had the luxury, and I say the luxury of having a doctor that's stuck with us all these years, that's a really important thing. But we want to think about, what if that happens? How is that, what will we change? What will we look for? What's going to be the vital decision maker for us? So Deidra, for you as a nurse, because that's how I met you, you were working cardiology, weren't you?
Yes.
I know it's been a while. Cardiology. You've got a lot of experience in the healthcare industry, and I know that from all the different groups and circles that you're in. You bring a great deal of knowledge to us, which I'm very grateful that you can make the time to do this for us today. How do you feel, or who do you feel are the most important people to include on your medical support team for healthcare?
Your primary care physician. My heart goes out to the primary care physicians because they are always left out of the loop. When you go into the hospital does not care about your primary care physician. You're going to get an internist who knows nothing about you, and they think they can change everything right there, and life is going to be grand, and you're going to be,
Okay. Good. Okay.
yeah. So your primary care physician, and lots of times your insurance is the key. Insurance controls medicine. Period. End of discussion. Your primary care physician or your cardiologist, someone could say, oh, we're going to order you this. It's going to do so much better for your health. And your insurance can say, oh, we're not paying for it.
Good for you, but you're not going to get it from us.
Exactly. So I would say your primary care physician, and if you cannot afford an independent patient advocate, get your own patient advocate. Partner up with somebody. Partner up with your next door neighbor if you're a solo senior. Partner up with somebody that you can go to her doctor's visit, and you can go to her doctor's visit. You guys can be in that doctor's visit together.
Well, I've heard many times that Troy used the term quarterback earlier, that your primary care physician is really your quarterback. Because that person is going to be the person that will be able to refer you to other physicians that can care for you as they do,
Yes.
correct?
Most of the time, but I do go back to insurance, because some people's insurance, you don't have to have a referral from your PCP. So when you're investigating a physician that's going to be on your team, ask around. Ask other people, have they met you said physician? Ask other people, ask the nurses who work for the physician. Ask the good nurses. Just pull them to the side and say, hey, how long have you been here? If they say several years and they're happy, you look at that culture, is so true. In a physician's office, or a hospital, or a doctor's office, or anything like that, watch how they interact with each other. If they're disgruntled and unhappy, well, you probably don't need to be in that physician's office, because they're all stressed out. It's culture. Culture makes such a difference. So not as a person, I would say make sure you investigate the culture of your physician's group. So the PCP is important, but if you have an insurance where you don't have to have a referral, make sure that cardiologist or gastroenterologist that you're going to will communicate with your PCP.
I oftentimes, when I go to see, I don't see my physician that often. I see the PA more than I see the physician. So talk to us about that.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So I want to say this. Lots of physicians, there's nobody that wants to do medicine anymore. People are so burnt out. And as we age, there are 11,000 people per day plus over the age of 65 having that birthday. Every day, 11,000 people are turning 65. So the physicians are overwhelmed. So they hire nurse practitioners or PAs, physician assistants. There's really not much difference in a PA or a nurse practitioner, other than a nurse practitioner. I'm partial to them because they've been a nurse first. A PA can just go to school and not know anything about having that compassion or that desire or that drive to go in nursing. You have to be a nurse first in order to be a nurse practitioner. So the physicians, the primary care physicians, since there's so few of them, because they're aging too. They're retiring too. So they can hire a nurse practitioner or a PA to help them be able to get a broader scope of care. But I will say this, I met some excellent nurse practitioners, I met some excellent PAs, I met some bad nurse practitioners, some bad PAs. You always can request that you see your doctor, but just be ready to be on the waiting list.
Exactly. Exactly. So what is the benefit, this kind of off your questions, what's the benefit of having a primary care physician versus seeing an internist?
Wonderful. So internists are hired by your hospital. So all the hospitals, they have, it's not like the old days where you saw your primary care physician, you go into the hospital, and then they come into the hospital to see you. Those days are gone, and they're far and few in between. I have one client that her physician was the only one out of all my clients that did that. So an internist is hired by the hospital, and you come into the hospital, you're gonna be assigned an internist who knows nothing about your history. They know nothing about your journey that you've already been on, what's already been working, and what needs to change. They're not gonna contact the physician outside the hospital and say, hey, Dr. Davidson, we stopped Xanax because we feel like it's gonna stop her from breathing. They don't consult that. They go like, okay, we're gonna stop the Xanax, you've been on that for years, and that just kind of disrupts everything. So that's why I say it's so pertinent to have a patient advocate on your team, whether it be your daughter, your son, your husband, your best friend, your next door neighbor, somebody that you trust, to go back to that word of trust, but also I'm gonna add that word maturity, because age doesn't mean you're mature enough to handle certain situations.
Good point. Good point. So, we talked about different types of physicians, cardiologists, oncologists, ophthalmologists. One of the things that I've learned from a peer of mine is the importance of having a dentist. You notice that a lot of times as people age, that's one of the things that kind of goes by the wayside because it's so expensive. Talk to us a little bit about having a dentist.
But anyway, a dentist is so important because your oral health is just as important as everything else. So find a good dentist, someone that's going to get you on a plan that's not about the money, like the latest and the greatest, dental procedure or whatever. Make sure that he or she is the type of person that's going to talk to you about your dental health and be able to make it easy to understand so you can take it to your PCP and your cardiologist. Did you guys know that your heart and your mouth is really important? It's really important for your overall health. So cardiologist, pulmonologist, renal doctor, all these doctors are so overwhelmed, they don't have time to talk. But if you can take the right notes when you're at that visit, and then you can elaborate that to your dentist, your pharmacist, your physician.
That's true. Good point. I have a couple of stories to share about the dentist. One that I had heard from my friend. They had a friend that for years they thought that their friend was suffering with MS. And they took her to a dental appointment. And oddly enough, after they removed all 4 of her wisdom teeth, which were infected, the side effects, the symptoms, all of those things had changed because of a dental procedure. I had my favorite hairdresser. I would go in and say, just do what we need to do. Make me look. He was so great, so great. He had complained to me at one time about having a broken tooth. And over time, it kept saying the tooth was bothering him. And, he was on a fixed income. They don't make a lot of money, fixed income. Didn't really do much about going to a dentist. Well, guess what happened? It started working into his throat. It turned into a cancer. And I don't have that hairdresser anymore today. And all the time I think, oh, that's Roger, if you would have just done something. But at the time, it didn't seem like it's going to be that important. So I think that dentist is really important. You talked about patient advocate. So when we're talking about someone like that, oftentimes I hear that you could be your best advocate. But it's always good to have somebody that's gonna be there for you. I think of my sister Monica, when my mom passed a couple of years ago, Monica, who was 2 years younger than I am, Monica was my mom's person. So the person that my mom would say, when this happens, I want this to happen. Be sure to tell them I said this. She was that person for us. So talk about that other person and how that person might work in the form of an advocate if they didn't have somebody.
Well, I would say, first of all, advocates are not nothing but new. We've all been advocates for somebody we love. I was an advocate for my mom. I was still a nurse, but I was an advocate for my mom. She had 5 positions that she had to go to, for different things. So an advocate is your second pair of eyes and ears. And I explain it like this, like say you're going to look for a new car. You take your buddy with you, they're gonna see something you didn't see. Or they're gonna hear something you didn't hear. Or they're gonna notice something you didn't notice. You may be like, oh, that's a Lexus, oh my gosh. You're getting all excited and they're saying, well, wait a minute, this is not big enough for you. You know, so you never know, it may not be conducive for the baby car seat or for the grandchildren, or whatever it may be. So an advocate can be any one of us. And I love teaching people how to be their own advocate. That advocate is going to hear something that you didn't hear, because lots of times when you're in the doctor's office, you're thinking about, okay, he's going to say something bad. I know he's going to say something bad. I know he's going to say my diabetes is out of control. I know my blood pressure is high. I know he's going to say my blood pressure. He's going to give me another medicine. So you're not focused. Whereas your buddy, they can be focused. And I want to iterate about the pharmacist. I don't want to leave pharmacists out. Your pharmacist is key, because when you go in the hospital, I guarantee you, they're going to use a different formulary. So when you get out of the hospital, getting back with your pharmacist, wherever they are, CVS, Walgreens, wherever you normally get your medication, is so key to have that pharmacist be your friend by doing a med reconciliation.
A med reconciliation.
A med reconciliation. So every time you go into the hospital or you go to a different doctor or something like that, take those lists of medications, because the doctor may add a medication or increase the medication or change medication. You still need to know if those medications are interacting together in cohesiveness. Because what you don't want to do is go through the medication spiral. Okay, I'm nauseated, so we're going to take this, but this causes me to be drowsy, so we're going to take this, but this is going to cause me to wake up, we're going to take this. Next thing you know, you're slow medication. So your pharmacist is so key to your health care.
What happens when you're doing, and it may be nothing, but I'm just thinking ahead here, what happens if you're doing all of your medication online, or it's coming to you through the mail and there's changes? I guess it's.
Oh, that's a great point. So with my clients, most of the time I tell them we don't go that route until we know we've been stabilized for at least a month, 6 months to a year, when there hasn't been any changes. Because you get they're great little packets that come in like this little roll.
Right.
It's great, but then if your physician changes one medicine or decreases something, now you gotta go back and look at that medicine packet and say what's what.
And which blue pill is it?
Which look, oh, and then don't get me started on that. Because so many times people say, oh, my little pink round pill and my little blue pill and my little this pill, and then the next thing you know, they send you, and the pills do not look like the ones that are in the pill box. So that's when it comes to overdosing and things like that, because people are like, oh, I take a little blue pill. There's no blue pills here, so we can't go by color, shape, and size. We have to go by the bottle.
You know, that's really true. I will say that there's a couple of prescriptions that John gets, and just recently we had them refilled, and this time, what used to be the size of an aspirin is now something that's the size of a pinhead. And he was really concerned that why is this pill so different? Although the pharmacist said it's the same thing, we're just getting from a different provider. So I think that that's important.
Yes.
You're saving money when you're getting it mailed to you, but are you getting your questions answered or concerns taken care of at the same time? Because we don't want to, a lot of people do that. You don't want to discourage people from doing that, but you do need to be aware of it, right?
So it's like the medical equivalent of legal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with the pharmacy, honestly though, then I think we could also implement this another handout that we had inside of your packet for you today. I had mentioned earlier that one of my friends that does a similar business to what we do in Des Moines, her husband is a former physician, and he talked about the importance of having a form like this that keeps track of who your physicians are, what type of Medicare you're on. Are you on A and B and D? What are you on? What are the medications that you're taking? Are you taking brand? Are you taking generic? Special medical provider. What he said is that he's got this set up as a document. So those of you that are using your computers, he's got this set up as a document so that every time he has a doctor's appointment, he checks to make sure everything's current on there. And he prints a new one. And the reason he prints a new one is because it's going to have an updated date on it. But when he goes to the doctor and they ask, what medications are you on? Or the nurse says that, you've got this document that you can hand off to them. So that might be something that might be of interest to you as you're forming your packet, your medical packet. Let's move forward. Medical power of attorney. Can the medical power of attorney be the same person?
And so elaborate, let's elaborate on that
So
question.
since they're typical people that we think of, what about the others that might not be so obvious? So your person that is helping you make those decisions, is that person also your medical power of attorney? Or do you need to have somebody else in that place? Because emotionally, can you handle those?
Exactly. So I did a short podcast on the design of a medical power of attorney. So just because someone has a title in your life, husband, oldest child, wife, does not mean that they're mature enough to really go by your wishes. So my mother passed at the age of 55. I was her medical power of attorney. We sat down and we discussed when she was able to exactly what she wanted. So I had to take myself out of the equation when it came to decision making when she can speak for herself. I wanted her to fight. She was tired. So I had to say, get out of self, be mature. This is what she wants. And whoever wants to fight me about it, bring it on. Because she had that on in writing. And she and I had discussed again and again and again. And I have seen so many times medical power of attorney. It's a big deal. It's a big responsibility. So you have to make sure that they're emotionally able to be able to handle that. Because I've seen it can be revoked at the bedside, in the hospital, at the last minute.
And Matt, that's probably something that you have conversations about as well when it comes to the power of attorney.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I kind of mentioned it before. It's not always the obvious choice, the person you want in there. It's the person who's going to carry out those wishes. And yeah, once again, if you have an advanced medical directive and work with an attorney, then unless they revoke it last minute, then there's not much that the person can change. But you still want it to be someone, as Deidra said, that's mature enough emotionally and intellectually to be able to handle it, for sure.
So Deidra, I have just a couple more questions for you. You know, you talked earlier about being a patient advocate, and I put a little grid up here for the audience to be looking at to fill in their box. We've talked about a lot of these different teams, if you will, but when we talk about patient advocate, briefly elaborate on what is a patient advocate and where would you find someone if your advocate is not a family member or not your best friend?
A patient advocate is someone who wants to help you set your goals personally and individually. They take you on as an individual person. I mean, you're not the same as everybody else. Patient advocates are not created equal. Patient advocacy is a new industry up and coming, but also you need to be diligent about how to pick your patient advocate. Look at their background, look at how they treat other people, look at their credentials, look at their testimonies, what people are saying about them. There are patient advocates that don't have to be a nurse to be a patient advocate. I know patient advocates that help people fight their hospital bills. That's all they do. I know patient advocates that guide you through Medicare, not sell Medicare, they guide you through Medicare. I know patient advocates that help you fight insurance claims. And then I also know patient advocates such as myself that specialize in chronic illness. But you also can be your own patient advocate. And it's all about making sure you know what your wishes are, what you want, understanding your medications, that's the foundation, and being able to communicate and collaborate with all the on the healthcare team.
Good answer. Jeremy, something that I want to share with you.
Yes.
It's so quiet, patient.
Absolutely good.
You know, one more thing that we want to consider on our medical team, and it's one of the boxes that we have up here, is hospice. Hospice sometimes is a topic that nobody wants to think about or talk about because it has, for lack of a better way of saying it, it has a negative stigma to people in a lot of ways because they're unaware of that. So tell us a little bit about hospice. We'll come back to you later on more, but tell us a little bit about hospice and how that can work on your team.
So one thing as a chaplain that I encounter in terms of people not being able to die peaceful deaths or having family issues all stems back to this. If this is the mountaintop, then everything that we've just talked about streams all the way down to the hospice level. If I can share just a couple of stories with you. There was a patient that waited a long time to come on hospice services. At my previous hospice, he was probably on our services about 5 days. So he died within about 5 days. On day 2, I went to go see the family. And the daughter was so upset because mama got to be buried. But daddy didn't have enough money to be buried. And they didn't have enough money to pay for any kind of burial. They didn't have credit cards. Like there was nothing they could do to bury daddy beside mom. And that was so hard for them. They finally worked out, called banks, got some loans together, and they were able to pay for a fairly decent cremation service. But now they're in debt, having to pay all that because they didn't go with wealth management, right? They'd never had that conversation. There was another patient I had, and it was at the height of COVID. And it was actually him and his wife. They both went in to the hospital at the same time for COVID-related problems. The wife had a heart condition, he had COPD. And so they're admitted at the very same time, and he's improving and he gets out, and all the reports that he's getting from his wife is that she's improving and she's about to get out. So he leaves and he goes home, and his wife's going to be coming back the day after. And he calls up to the hospital and he said, "How's she doing?" "Oh, she's doing great. We just, she just ate a bunch of food. She's ready to go home from the hospital and she'll be discharged in the next couple of hours." He was so excited. He's going to get to have his wife back, and they both came on our services at the same time. And then it's not 10 minutes later, the hospital calls and says, "I'm so sorry to tell you, your wife has just died. It was a blood clot that had gone to her heart." And she looked, I mean, every bit of improvement seemed to be there. So I talked to the family, and they're just beside themselves. The husband has no idea where the documentation is about what his wife's final wishes are. He said, "I know what they are." I said, "But if all you're telling me is verbal," I said, "it can be argued by your kids." And he said, "Okay." He said, "Well, I'll look for it." Well, he couldn't find it. I called the daughter. She goes, "Oh, I remember when Mama wrote it on a Post-it note." And they're looking all over this apartment for this Post-it note. And in the meantime, this conflict is brewing among the family. And it's because this doesn't happen. There's also situations where, we get patients in hospice that we call them or their families poor historians. We're trying to figure out what's going on with them. What are their other, symptoms? What are their other illnesses that they've had in the past? What kind of medications are they allergic to? And all that kind of stuff. And if you're a poor historian, then we're just guessing. And we don't need to be at the level where we're guessing when it comes to end-of-life care. We need to know, and we need to make sure that this is what hospice is all about, that we provide you the absolute best in pain control and comfort. And when you get on hospice, we want to give you the gift of intentional time. Time that you get to choose how you spend with your loved ones. Where you don't have to worry about going from appointment to appointment to appointment to appointment to appointment. You don't have, 5 different specialists that you're going to see anymore. In fact, you have eye issues, we'll bring an optometrist to you. What hospice is, it is a unique form of concierge healthcare. And the whole point is that we seek to alleviate the total pain that a person experiences. Total pain is something that was developed, an idea that was developed by the founder of hospice back in the 1960s, Dame Cicely Saunders. And let me tell you what Cicely Saunders saw, because she's in Great Britain, and Great Britain has the National Health Service, and that came about in 1949. She saw how dying patients were being treated in the hospital. She goes up there and she's like, well, this person, they were here in this room before, and she's a nurse, and she's talking with doctors, and they're like, oh yeah, we put him over in that. We put him over in that way. We put him over in that way. So the way that dying people used to be treated, and this is what prompted the whole idea of hospice, so this is what hospice is not. This is what Cicely Saunders saw. She saw that all these people were in this wing, and the doctors had given up. They said, what's the point? They're dying. And they also didn't like the pain, because they didn't want them to get addicted to pain medication. So they were saying, they were saying, you know what, we're not going to give it to you. We'll only give it to you if you get really extreme. And so here they are, they're writhing in pain and agony, and their family's not around them. And Cicely Saunders said, enough. That is not what's going to happen. So what hospice is now, the question is, who's on your hospice team? Well, with hospice, you get a whole team of people. First of all, you get CNAs. These are the nurse aides. And the nurse aides will help you with all your activities of daily living, your bathing, your grooming, your dressing, whatever you are able to do, be as independent as possible for as long as possible. If you need higher level care, you've got trained people who can help you out with that. And that whole point of that is so you feel like a human every day, where you're not just not having a bath, not having a shower. You feel loved. You feel cared for. You also get a nurse. And the nurse is all about the medications, the wound care, vital signs, measurements, evaluations, monitoring your situation, your condition. The nurse might visit you 1 time a week, might visit you 3 times a week. As end of life nears, our nursing visits increase, our pain management increases, so that you are having, so you don't have to fear the idea of suffering. We're trying to get that under control, so it's pain-free, and you're loving on your family. That's what it. So social workers, they will refer you to people like Matt. Okay, that's about patient safety, patient legal documentation, funeral home and cremation arrangements, financial concerns, social services if you need them in the community, psychosocial support, those kinds of things. As a chaplain, what I do is I am not the guy, and this is what is kind of the idea is, you're the guy that goes and holds hand and says a prayer with somebody. Well, absolutely, I'll do that, but that's not all I do, because what I help people do is unpack their distress. Because there's a lot of distress going on when you come to the end of life, when you come on hospice, and you had to navigate through that idea of I'm on hospice, and these are the preconceived notions I have about hospice. One thing I didn't say about Concho Hearts, we are a new hospice. We are about 1 year old, but we are growing. We're in San Angelo, we're in San Antonio, we're about to be in Houston, we're about to be open 1 in Decatur, we're looking at opening 1 in Tyler, we're in Mansfield, we're in Fort Worth, and that's just within the span of a year. Because what we do before we ever admit anybody on hospice is we will address your needs. And so that's a little bit about hospice. There's a couple other things. We have a doctor. to oversee the medical care of hospice. And just a couple other things real quick, Ingrid. How do you pay for hospice? You have Medicare, you pay. That's it. Now, if you want a certain prescription that hospice doesn't cover, you have to have Medicare Part D to cover that. But if you have Medicare, you're paid. We bill Medicare and we give you everything that you could possibly need. The way you get on hospice, it's a physician referral, but you got to be certified by 2 physicians. If you have a terminal illness, that if the disease follows its natural course, then your death would be in about 6 months. That's what will qualify you for hospice. If you become hospice, I've had patients on hospice for 18 months. I mean, because they stabilize, they relax, they're no longer, and so we're just keeping everybody comfortable, making sure that if you have allergies, you get allergy medication. If you have some blood pressure medicine you need to be on and it's working for you, stuff like that. We make sure you still have that, as long as it's not related to your terminal illness. But one thing is, by certified by 2 physicians, that would be probably your primary care physician and the hospice medical director. There's a doctor, and he says, "Yep, that's right." Okay. So one thing to know about hospice, it's all based on consent. Like all medical care is, it's based on consent. If at any time you're on hospice, you go, "You know what, I want to try aggressive treatment." We'll give you some paperwork, you get off hospice, you go try aggressive treatment. If it works, wonderful. If it doesn't work, come on back. But it is literally based on consent. So,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
All right, well, let's move forward. So we're going to finish up a couple of things here with Deidra, and then we'll move forward to our next one. Deidra, what are some of the things that we can do to help the members of our medical team so that everyone is on the same page? We've got just a few things there that you might share with our audience. On based on our time.
So, patient portals are not created equal. And a lot of people do not like patient portals. And then you have your individual doctors, they have their own patient portals. And then you have the hospitals like Texas Health, UT Southwest, medical cities, they sometimes can't interact with each other. But what if you could have it all in the palm of your hand by creating your own medical binder? So each gentleman that I've spoken with, each section could be in your medical binder. Your medical powers of attorney, your durable power of attorney, your finance things could be in that medical binder. When you're investigating, there's something here, investigate the companies that you think you might need, but if you don't know what you need, you get a patient advocate to help you guide you through that journey. Right? So your medical binder can incorporate everything that pertains to you in your medical care, from your advanced directives, from your HIPAA release, from your driver's license, from your social security, from your medicines, from your procedures, from your labs, from your doctor's visits, all that can be in your medical binder. And it can be at the tips of your fingers when you are asked questions by your doctor.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on. So you've been listening to information about your medical team. Look again at your squares. Who did you need to add? Who have you added? Tips to help your healthcare team. So just things to keep in mind: create a medical binder, incorporate family members to clarify the roles and responsibility. That's going to be important. Create a medical calendar. I know that most of you probably have those things. We've kind of been trained over the years to put doctor's appointments on our calendar, so we don't forget. A lot of times when I'm going on a consultation, somebody says, "Let me see if I have a doctor's appointment." So we want to make sure that we've got a current calendar. And then, as we had talked about earlier, take your list of medications and update that and keep it in your purse and your wallet so that you'll have that for your next visit. So who should be on your family team? Here again, considering those individuals, we're looking for my spouse on my family team. My spouse is still with me, my children, my siblings, my grandchildren, my nieces and my nephews. Are they close by? Can they come in and help if I need something like that? So mark those people that are your family team that come to your mind, or maybe put a question mark by some of those people that you feel like I really do need to touch base with them so that they can be part of this with me. Who should be on your social team? So be thinking about that. Sociability, as we've talked about all the time in our seminars, is probably one of the most important things. Getting out and doing things together. And your social team is going to be that group of individuals that are going to make a big difference because it's going to keep you around longer and make it more fun, right? So your friends are going to be in that list. Who are your close friends that are a part of your social team? Who are your neighbors that are important to continue to have relationships with, especially now that we're getting back after COVID? Volunteer groups. So one of the things that I have in my notes here for volunteer groups that you might just jot down in your square. Engage Arlington. I don't know if any of you know about that, but it's a coffee. It's a group that meets once a month, actually once a quarter, I think, through the Eunice Senior Center, and they meet for breakfast once a month. We've attended a couple of those. There's 30-some people that meet, and it's just a time to get together and talk about things that are going on with the city and just in general. Also, ambassadors for aging. Elva, and Elva's last name is Roy. Elva Roy, sorry about that. Elva Roy, she has her group, and is she back to live or is she still Zooming? Do you know? She's still Zooming. So for those of you that want to, she's got great speakers for, I think these are both, yeah. So she's got great topics. Elva Roy with ambassadors for aging well. Local senior centers is another place. The YMCA, book clubs. There's different games that go on there. Senior companion programs. There's another thing that you might keep in mind. One thing I didn't mention that I want to mention is volunteer groups, Meals on Wheels. A lot of people that we have in our lives have really enjoyed giving back through Meals on Wheels, and they sure do appreciate it. And it's building new relationships with people that are looking forward to seeing you every week. So keep that in mind as well. Senior companion programs. There are different individuals out there that will gladly take you to a doctor's appointment or take you to a hair appointment or go with you to a movie. So you might look into some of those as well. And I would also say Celebration Magazine. They have all kinds of things going on. They're now implementing again their trips. So they're going to do a train ride up the East Coast. They're going to be doing a cruise also in the fall. They've got a lot of activities. Their magazine is for living after 60, I think is what it says on their magazine. We've got some here out on the front table. Fun group. They're always looking for great things to do together. So build those things into your square. And then, yes.
I think the biggest one of all of them is group exercise.
Group exercise, absolutely. And we did that a couple of months ago, didn't we? And you know, that's why I mentioned the YMCA. That's one of the things that John and I really love doing together. I feel this way. We work a lot. I love what we do. But this is something I'm doing for me. So 3 days a week in the morning, I'm going to water aerobics, and people say, oh, that's nothing. Well, I'll tell you what. I put 4,700 steps in on Monday, so it is something to be in there in the pool. And the social part of it is really fun because there's other people that are doing that with you. Thanks for bringing that up. The last one that we have here that we're going to go back into here is we want to, and this is very important, we want to talk about who's on your spiritual team. So, you know, for those of us who are spiritual or religious, our church family can be an essential part of our support team as we age. And I think a lot of people, they say, when you want to make a move, what are you thinking about? I want to be close to my doctors. I want to be close to my church. Usually the third thing is, I want to be close to my family, my kids. Because remember keeping this in mind. Probably everybody here can relate to this. I'm going to move because my children are moving to Tennessee. I'm going to move to be close to them. Guess what happens when you move there? They move. Now you went there, that's all you know is family. All of a sudden they're gone. Now you're looking to move somewhere else. So keep that in mind, you know, when you're thinking about who do I want to be near. So when it comes to your spiritual team, there we go. We have different individuals that we want to be looking at. There are religious leaders, there's life groups. Jeremy and I are actually on a life group together, and it's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot.
It's been great.
Learned a lot. We learned a lot from each other. We laughed a lot. It's been really, really great. Sunday school classes. Is anybody here that's going to Sunday school classes? Okay, that's a great social activity, as well as the last one that's on the green box is up there, grief support. That's an important one as well, and I'll use a personal example.
Sure.
Be proud to hear that I did this.
All right, go for it.
2 years ago, actually, it was a little over a year ago, on Christmas, my sister that lives in Missouri, her youngest son had come back home because he had just experienced a divorce. And he had a 4-year-old son. And on Christmas morning, it'll be 2 years this December, they went down to get him up because his son was coming over for Christmas morning, and guess what? Gone. It's been really difficult for them because COVID, there weren't any support groups. Everything was on Zoom. You know, my brother-in-law said I was just there last month, but then this first time because I didn't want anybody near. My brother-in-law said, I don't want to talk about my broken heart to somebody on the TV screen. I want to be able to be with somebody so that I can express my brokenness. And not living there, they're in Missouri, not really living there and knowing the city well, I really didn't know what to do with that. So Jeremy and I were having a conversation about it. And when we finished our life group last week, I went online and looked, and sure enough, I found one that was within 10 minutes of their home.
Oh, good. That is awesome.
So it's good, but here's where I take that. You know, you can only go so far with a family member. Yeah. It took over a year to be able to even go and be there with my sister. So what I did was I took a picture of it. I took a picture of the map to show where it was by their house. I sent it to them. It was on Monday. I haven't heard anything. I'm not going to do any more about it.
Sure.
But what I wanted to do is just real briefly have you share with us the grief share and share that as part of our spiritual team with our group.
Okay, so I do lead a grief share group at my church, and grief share is probably the absolute best content, information, and environment for recovering from grief of the loss of any loved one. You know, we've had people there who they said, I waited 8 years to come to this group. Sometimes that happens. So we have somebody who lost his wife and then he came 2 days later. I mean, grief is just a really strange thing. But grief support is so important because one of the things that grieving people need is to know that they're not weird, right? Because to know that they're not alone and to know that there are people who are going through the same kind of pain that they are. And everybody, as they lean on each other, they learn to encourage each other, learn from each other. It is absolutely fantastic. Grief Share, like I said, has the best content. I've read a lot of grief books, and I'm telling you, there's no better content for grief and getting over grief than Grief Share videos and the Grief Share environment. It is remarkable. We're probably 10 weeks into my group. I guess we're 11 weeks into it. And my group's starting to feel free to laugh again. They're not crying as much anymore. They're now reaching out and encouraging each other. And it's just a remarkable experience. Then 11 weeks, but they had to face it, and they had to get before people, and they had to be open and vulnerable and transparent. But it's easier in a support group setting, and than it is to, well, like I said, opening up to family members. It doesn't always work. It's all like, what's wrong with you? Why are you thinking these things? You should know better. I raised you better than, whatever. No, this is a place where you can be you. And so I encourage you, if you've lost a loved one, and you're hitting some emotional freeze points, get it into a grief share group. There's tons of them all over Arlington. I lead one in South Arlington, but it is a remarkable experience.
And you don't have to, like I said, it's a group, so it's not specific. There are churches that have them,
Yep.
but it's not specific to that.
No.
People from all over can come that too.
Oh, that's correct, yes, and yeah, maybe you say that too, yeah. Each week is open-ended, right? So if you miss week 5 and you're just like, oh, I just can't go back, because week 6, I mean, I screwed it all up, no. It's open-ended, it's self-contained, you show up when you show up, and if you don't show up, that's okay, we get it. But it's very important to know that anybody can come. It is held in churches mostly, but anybody can come. I mean, the advice is amazing and it's super helpful.
Thank you. Thank you. One thing I meant to just remind you of, and I will just real briefly, when we were talking about senior centers on the social team ideas, just jot yourself down a note on this. On the back side of your handout, which you're taking home with you today, it shows our website, Dallas-Fort Worth Senior Living. And there is a section on the website called resources. And there we have a complete list of all the different senior centers that are out there throughout the Metroplex. So if you're not sure of one, or you want to go to a different one or try one, please use that as a resource. It's got the address there, it's got a phone number there. It's a great tool, and thank you, Debbie, for putting that together for us.
And volunteer programs also.
And the volunteer programs are out there as well. So if you're saying, I want to volunteer, but I don't know where I fit, or I want to volunteer, but I don't want to go out anywhere, they have a lot of online opportunities as well. What was that called? RSVP?
Mhm.
Yes, on that. Okay, we are winding down now. We just have a couple more that we want to talk about. Who should be on your home team? So now we're coming to that part of our square. And we're looking at individuals. So I'm a real estate agent. Well, all of you know that. John is a real estate agent. I think it's important for whether we're doing something like that now or it's in our future, but it's important to know somebody that has your best interest in mind. In my case, I am a certified senior real estate specialist. I'm also a certified senior housing professional. So my focus is what's going on out there for you? What's going on out there for me? What kinds of things are going to apply when we're ready to make some changes? Your move manager, same kind of an idea. You're thinking about making some changes. Who's going to be out there to help you? That's what senior downsizing experts is for us. That's our move management company. So look to see who's got those types of tools that you need. Contractors, same thing. It's really important to have vetted contractors. We know now, we just had some storms. Watch out for the roofing people. That's a quick thing. So you really want to know somebody that you can call and say, hey, what do you know about these people? Have you ever used them before? In-home care. That's something someone like Deidra can also share with you. If I need to have someone come, I met her through a group of senior healthcare providers, and I can't tell you how useful and educational it was for me when my mom was needing in-home care in Farmington, New Mexico. Through the group that she and I attend together, I learned about comfort keepers. And they happened to have one in New Mexico, so I could send somebody in there to be with my mom. And through Comfort Keepers, they recommended a hospice service for my mom. So it was really great to have those connections, which oftentimes we lose as we lose those different people in our lives. And then senior living communities. You know, we have the Active 55 here for the orchards. There's several, and I think what we're learning is senior living communities are not what they used to be. There's a great variety out there. So you want to make sure you want to look at what your resources are. Oops. I think that's it. So now what we're going to do, Debbie, we have a special slide here, and I wanted you to come up and explain that one to our audience before we go to our Q&A. So while she's getting ready here, make sure and mark up your squares. That's really important. I want you to have something to take away with you that you can reflect on even more after you leave here today. And then we have another seminar that's coming up. So we're doing every other month out here. And Debbie, talk about this.
So we are starting a new program, bring a friend, get a gift. So if you sign up a friend, or a friend signs up and tells us that you referred them, then we will have a gift for you at
Does that start today? Because I brought a friend.
So you have to bring in to qualify, it has to be a new attendee to Smart Ticket Series. They have to pre-register so that we know how many people we're gonna have. And they just need to tell us that you're the person who referred them to the series. So they can call me and register, or you can do it online. There's gonna be a blank on the form that says friend, and it'll have a place to type your name. So, if you have any questions, just let me know.
Next seminar is creating an independent lifestyle with options. So we'll be looking at what are some of those options that we've been discussing all along. Don't forget about your feedback. You know how much we love getting feedback from you on the seminar. And now let's take some time before we do our drawing to answer some questions. So what do we have here? Yes.
I'm always curious, Jeremy, has anyone ever gone into hospice and said, screw this, I'm walking out of here, and they just left, they, you know, they're told they're hopeless, they're gone?
Yes, that does happen. And so my previous hospice, we had somebody who got on hospice and off of hospice 6 times. And when she finally got back on, she's like, okay, this is it. But I mean, like, she was trying rehab and all that. But the problem was that rehab, they're like, we can't justify keeping her here. She's not making improvement. Right? And so then they send her back and it's like, let's try this. Anyway, it does happen. It's rare, but it does happen.
Another question. Yes.
Where would you put your pets on this box?
Where would you?
Does it go in social or?
And I'll answer that part of it.
Yes.
So pets are personal property, right? It's their family, right? Their kids in some cases, but from an estate planning point of view, they are tangible personal property. So we actually have pretty big parts of our estate plans to provide for pets if people desire to add that. People set up trusts for their pets, for their well-being. People appoint caretakers, and at the very least, people utilize what you two ladies know that we have in our estate plans, the personal property memorandum, where at the very least, you can say who's going to get the pet if you became incapacitated. So from an estate planning perspective, it's that.
There you go. So that's a legal part.
And I think social.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. The dog park.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The dog park, right. Anybody else? Yes.
Can you put in your will, the person who takes care of my pet should have a certain amount of money provided from?
Absolutely, absolutely. So you can set it up in a couple of different ways. You can do a specific distribution of a certain amount of money to that person with the understanding that you're rewarding them for taking care of your pet. If the money is meant to be used for the pet, that's where these little pet trusts come up. So your will creates a trust for the benefit of the pet that the caretaker can pull from. Absolutely,
Wow.
absolutely. So there's all kinds of options with caretakers and money.
I'm glad you know that.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah. What else?
Yes, I've got a comment for Deidra, and then I've got a question for me. Comment for Deidra is about 5 or 6 years ago, the health club where I go to, which is now under a new name, but they had the Antico EMTs come and talk to the seniors. And what we took out of, we got a lot of good information, like you unlock the front door as you're calling 911, but don't forget to unlock the door because they'll break it down. And they also have a program for seniors where they have a paper like this, and it's in a case that on a magnet that you put on your refrigerator, right?
Used to be Violet Life, but now they've changed it.
Yeah, so if you live alone and need an EMT, it's right there on your refrigerator.
While you're saying that, you made me think about something, the importance that your DNR is visible, correct?
Right.
Because
so-
when the EMT comes, if they don't know that.
Yes, so lots of times I tell people what needs to go in their medical binder. So you can tell your care partner, my medical binder is on the cabinet and it's blue or purple or pink or whatever. Everything is in there that your EMTs would need. So all important numbers, and even on your cell phone, just the emergency button, they don't even have to unlock their phone. You can put your program, your permanent emergency information in your cell phone.
Wait, you used to have another question.
I have a question for Matt. Supposing you don't have children or children who are responsible, so you name a bank as a trustee, what type of percentage do they take from the estate? And also, if you do have a child who does all the work in the estate for the other children, what is fair for them to take out for their family?
Yeah, great question. So having a corporate trustee like a bank or a trust company, sometimes it is the best route to go if there's just no one else who can handle it, but it does cost money. A lot of it is tiered depending on how much the value of the estate is, because obviously if it's a smaller estate, they're going to have to take a higher percentage to justify it. If it's a larger estate, then a lower percentage would cover their costs. But I've seen it anywhere from 3 to 10%. And a lot of times when people are working with me and they want a recommendation for who's this 3% bank? That's usually whenever I have a few that I recommend that are on the lower end for sure. When it comes to a family member serving in these positions, Texas law says that they should receive fair and reasonable compensation under the circumstances. And there's all kinds of case law that shows the different circumstances. So really, it's on kind of a case-by-case basis, and I usually advise the executor or the successor trustee on how much I think their role really fits in there. But another good point, and we did this a little bit on Galen's plan, is that is income to the executor. So a little trick from an estate planning attorney is that you can always just give the person who's going to be serving a little bit extra distribution under the estate, because that's a tax-free benefit to them. Whereas income is going to be taxed as ordinary income. So you can kind of lay it out and save them a little bit of money in that sense. But whenever I'm representing, because in the state of Texas, you have to be represented by counsel to be an executor. And so when I'm working with executors, I usually help guide them on what I think is fair under the circumstances that exist. And then a lot of times then too, it depends on what all they have to do, right? How large is the estate? How many debts do we have to deal with? Is there a bunch of real estate that we had to sell? Are some of these institutions, pains in the butt to work with? So it really is a very fact-driven scenario. That's why the state of Texas has kind of the cop-out. Very reasonable under the circumstances that exist. So it's case by case, but that's definitely another good reason why it's good to be working with it.
I just actually had an observation. My name is Amy, but I work with Jeremy at the Concho Hospice, and the value of this panel is astronomical in the sense that oftentimes Jeremy and I will see families that are in crisis, and to have some of these estate plans in place so that the burden on your child or your medical power of attorney, it takes that burden off of that child in crisis who's losing that spouse or that parent. It takes that burden off of them. So the value in having plans in place beforehand is invaluable. So I encourage you to start having those conversations with your family, with your loved ones about how you want your last days to be mapped out, who you want to be in charge of things, because it's absolutely valuable. The other thing, Ingrid, you mentioned a DNR, and this is my big sticky point, because I deal with a lot of families that say, oh, I have my advanced directives.
Right.
Advanced directives are different than a DNR. They're two separate documents. So there's an in-hospital DNR and an out-of-hospital DNR. So it's important to know that there's a difference between those. So-
I know that there was a client of mine that was a friend as well. And I ended up being her executrix. And she was a former nurse. And she told me over and over and over again, make sure that the EMTs see my DNR. Make sure. Yeah.
Well, sadly, that doesn't qualify. I tried that. Take my shirt off. Yeah, sadly, it doesn't
She was
qualify.
so worried about that. She
Yes.
said, make sure they see that, make sure it doesn't get moved. They need to know that because I do not want to be resuscitated on the way to hospital.
Right, and you can actually notify your local fire department as well. So make that phone call to let them know that. So you can make that phone
Write
call
that in your.
saying that I am a DNR, like, locations like in Mansfield, they have actually a senior police officer who actually checks on the seniors. Yes, he's awesome. But he kind of keeps record of folks. But Pantico has an excellent program as well. They want to know who's on hospice, who's not, who needs oxygen. Those are all important. So add the fire department, your local station, add them to your contact people as well.
All right, thank you. Amy.
You're welcome.
And
Sorry.
just like, hey, just add to Amy, I totally agree with her. Don't wait to do the estate planning documents. Don't wait to update them if you need to update them too. You might have noticed I was on my phone a little bit. We just got a call from somebody who we're working with getting their will and Lady Bird set up, but got the call that she went on hospice. They don't know whether she's gonna make it through the weekend. Tomorrow's Good Friday. I already told my kids I was gonna be home. So I was getting my staff to get a will together to overnight tomorrow. And then because we're under emergency COVID orders, I can notarize by Zoom. And we're getting it set up for me to be able to notarize tomorrow from my house while I'm with my kids. So I apologize for being on my phone, but that's the kind of thing that I would say, just don't wait. So.
And I know we're over time, but I have to say this too, it's so important because sometimes you don't want to have that conversation with your family. Because I was one of those that didn't want, my mother knew before I did. And I don't want to talk about that, Mom, let's not talk about that right now. I kept on putting it off. But when we finally sat down and had that conversation, that's so important. Don't put it off. I had a client, 69 years of age, very young, viral, but he had end-stage kidney failure. One daughter. His daughter wanted him to fight. The doctors were saying you need to go on dialysis. He said dialysis is not a quality of life for me. So after I educated him on what dialysis really was, he was like, David, I still don't want to do it. Well, now we got to get your paperwork in order. But he didn't. Went into end-stage renal failure, didn't have any cognition about him, went into the hospital, they put him on dialysis. So as soon as he acclimated, he was like, get me off of this, I want to go on hospice. But had we got that stuff together early on, he wouldn't have to go through that.
Those of you that have attended with us for a while, just kind of in closing before we do our drawing here, you've also met Bertha Hurls. And the other part that's really important is to do your pre-planning ahead of time. Having that and having our trust in place makes it so much easier for our loved ones when that time comes for us, because it's all there, it's all been worked out. So remember to do that. If you haven't done it yet, remember to do that. That's really important. As you're working on your taxes and all of those things that we have coming up, now you're going to be coming across some of these documents, et cetera, that maybe you need to start setting aside in those folders just for safety purposes and for ease of being able to grab them when you need them. Okay, yes, one question.
One last question for Deidra, please. If you have a DNR, if you have 3 DNRs, and you still dial 911, isn't that contradictory? No. I mean, maybe people come in the door and you're going, where's my DNR? Well, why did you call me then?
Some people, and I sympathize with that because some people just don't understand when they their track minus to stay there.
They're
right?
gonna, yeah,
Yeah.
But it could be something that you don't need to be resuscitated, but you need to be rushed to the hospital.
Right.
So there are reasons to call
then don't
911.
wait.
Well, this is
Right,
also,
right,
this is
right.
also a reason to get some of your,
DNRs do not resuscitate, so
Right.
he's right, so it means. So,
but don't they also need to come to get a little bit of your medical, about your medical condition as they're taking you to?
yes, they do, and then when they see that it's the DNR, they still go, you can still be treated.
Right, they can take you to the hospital.
You can still be treated, but that means that if you go into cardiac